Across the stark beauty of the American Southwest, an ancient fear whispers on the wind the legend of skinwalkers.
Mm,
But these aren't just your, run-of-the-mill shapeshifters. These are something twisted, something that kind of perverts the natural order.
definitely.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the, unsettling reality behind the skinwalkers of Navajo tradition.
Right. And what we're really talking about here are beings known in Navajo as Yee Naaldlooshii.
Yee Naaldlooshii.
Yeah, think of that as meaning something like, by means of it, it goes on all fours.
Okay.
Essentially, within Navajo folklore, these are seen as evil sorcerers with the terrifying ability to become animals.
So our aim in this deep dive is really to get to the heart of this belief. Where does it come from? What powers are they said to have? What's their, profound cultural importance?
Yeah.
And why do they inspire such deep respect and, frankly, fear within Native American communities? We're trying to approach this with deep respect for these sacred beliefs.
That's vital.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What are the roots of this darkness? Where does this idea come from?
Well, it's crucial to understand that skinwalkers, and specifically the Yee Naaldlooshii,
Right.
which is a particular type of what people might broadly call a skinwalker, or even more specifically, a type of anti-Yee in Navajo belief.
Okay, got it.
They aren't simply born this way. It's not like that. These are human sorcerers who have actively chosen a path of evil.
Chosen.
Yes, a deliberate rejection of their humanity.
A conscious choice. Wow. What pushes someone down such a, terrifying road?
The lore says these individuals gain their dark abilities by committing truly horrific acts, breaking profound taboos.
Horrific acts. Like what?
Well, we're talking about malevolent rituals,
Mm.
often involving immense evil. Things like incest or the devastating act of murdering a close family member.
Good heavens.
And this is the crucial distinction, you see. It sets them apart from benevolent medicine people or other kinds of shapeshifters you might find in various cultures.
That's a chilling origin story. So this isn't just some campfire tale. It's deeply interwoven with Navajo culture itself.
Precisely.
How has that deep embedding influenced how these stories are passed down?
The Skinwalker legend is really deeply rooted in Navajo tradition. It serves as a very potent moral compass.
The moral compass.
Yeah, stark warning against witchcraft, against the allure of corruption. These beings, they embody the very opposite of Navajo cultural values. Everything the culture stands against.
It strikes me, though, that this isn't something openly discussed, especially with outsiders.
No, not usually.
I've learned there's a real reluctance to delve into skinwalker lore with those outside the community. Why is that?
That's a very important point. This reluctance stems from deeply held cultural taboos.
Okay.
And also a recognition that, those outside the Navajo community often lack the essential cultural framework to truly grasp these beliefs.
Right, the context is missing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As Adrian Keene, who's a Cherokee Nation academic, has highlighted, it can be deeply damaging and disrespectful when non-Navajos take these legends out of context, using them without understanding their real significance. These aren't just spooky stories for entertainment.
That makes complete sense. It's about honoring the sacred nature of these beliefs.
It is.
On a related note, I also heard that traditional healers sometimes learn about dark magic. How does that fit in, given the secrecy?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
So, in order to effectively safeguard their communities from evil, traditional healers might indeed acquire knowledge of both benevolent and malevolent magic.
Ah, so it's about knowing your enemy in a sense.
You could say that. It's about understanding the nature of the darkness they might need to confront.
Okay.
However, and this is absolutely critical, you have to differentiate these healers from those who choose to become witches, like skinwalkers.
Right.
Those individuals are seen as fundamentally corrupt, people who have perverted that knowledge for harmful ends.
Okay, so they've made this dark choice. They've gained these abilities through terrible means. What exactly are they said to be capable of? What are these powers?
Well, their primary power, the one most people know, is shapeshifting.
Right.
They can transform into a variety of animals, often animals linked with death, or bad omens, or trickery.
Like what kind of animals?
Think of things like coyotes, wolves, owls. The coyote especially pops up a lot in witchcraft narratives as this figure of cunning and deception.
So they take on these animal forms, but why? Just to scare people?
Oh, it's much more than that. Their intentions are purely malevolent.
Okay.
They use these animal forms to stalk victims, to spy on them, to terrorize them. There are accounts of them trying to break into homes or inflict harm in other ways. It's not passive.
And it's not just physical transformation, is it? I feel like I've heard whispers of other unsettling abilities, too.
That's right. Beyond just shapeshifting, it's believed they can possess living animals. Or even people.
Possess people?
Yeah, essentially inhabiting their bodies,
Yeah.
walking around in them.
That's deeply disturbing.
It is. And other powers attributed to them include things like mind control, the ability to cause mysterious illnesses, and even the deeply unsettling act of grave robbing or desecrating graves.
Wow. Those are some truly dark abilities. If someone were to encounter an animal they suspected was one of these beings, are there any telltale signs?
Traditional beliefs often mention identifiers, yeah? Things like eyes that glow unnaturally in the dark.
Other than naturally.
Yeah, or perhaps some subtle human-like feature that persists even when they're in animal form, a slight anomaly that betrays their true nature.
And the name itself, Skinwalker, it's pretty evocative. Does that come from anywhere specific in the lore?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The name comes directly from the belief that they literally wear the skins of the animals they transform into.
They wear the skins.
That's the belief. It's a very visceral, unsettling image, isn't it? It really underscores the unnaturalness of it all.
It really does.
And it's important to remember, too, skinwalkers aren't just men. They can be women as well. Evil doesn't discriminate by gender here.
Right. These stories are just the stuff of nightmares. How widespread are these accounts? Within the Navajo Nation, say, and surrounding areas, do people genuinely believe they might encounter one today?
Oh, yes. Stories and alleged sightings of skinwalkers are actually quite prevalent within the Navajo Nation and the broader region.
Really? Even now?
Yes. This isn't just something people talk about from the distant past. For many, these are viewed as very real, contemporary concerns.
And the fear associated with them must be profound, especially knowing that these were once, potentially, members of their own community.
Precisely. That's the core of it. The deep-seated fear stems directly from that potential betrayal. These aren't, monsters from somewhere else. They were once human beings, part of the community, who made a conscious decision to embrace evil from within.
That internal corruption. Yeah, I can see how that's terrifying.
It's at the very heart of the fear.
So what are the traditional ways people protect themselves? Are there specific blessings or rituals?
There are, yes. Traditional protective measures include specific blessings, performing certain rituals, and generally adhering to practices of caution, like staying indoors during the night when these beings are believed to be most active. Simple prudence, sometimes.
Now, I have to ask about Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. It's become such a huge thing in paranormal circles.
Right.
What's the connection, if any, between all the weird stuff reported there and the traditional Navajo legend?
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction to make. Skinwalker Ranch. It's famous for a whole array of paranormal phenomena, right?
Sure.
But its connection to the traditional Navajo skinwalker legend is primarily, geographical. And the name.
The name itself.
Yes, the name given to it by non-native individuals. Now, the Navajo people in that area do have their own ancient traditions and beliefs about the land, absolutely.
Right.
And the name Skinwalker Ranch sort of reflects that. But the specific occurrences reported at the ranch, UFOs, poltergeists, cattle mutilations, all that stuff, are largely different from the traditional lore surrounding the Yee Naaldlooshii. It's really an instance where a name tied to a specific cultural belief got adopted and applied to something quite different, often without the necessary cultural understanding or context.
That's a really important clarification, thank you. So when people within the Navajo community share stories of actual encounters, what do those narratives typically involve? Are they always these terrifying life or death struggles?
Not necessarily, no. The stories recounted within the community can range quite a bit.
Oh.
You certainly have those intense life and death situations where either the skinwalker or the person might be harmed or even killed.
Right.
But you also hear what are often called partial encounter stories. Maybe the skinwalker is seen, causes fear, but is ultimately scared away, or the encounter ends in a kind of stalemate.
Okay, so not always a fight to the finish.
No. And there are even what you might call Navajo victory stories, stories where skinwalkers approach a home, maybe, but are successfully repelled using traditional prayers or protective measures.
That's fascinating. It suggests kind of resilience and agency within those stories.
It does, and it's interesting how these traditional narratives differ from the way outsiders often portray encounters.
How so?
Well, non-native interpretations, in movies or online stories, often tend to focus on those partial encounters, frequently set on a lonely road at night, maybe a vulnerable outsider protagonist who manages to narrowly escape. That's a common trope.
Yep, I've seen that.
But that emphasis on the fleeting encounter, the outsider escaping, it isn't always the central theme in traditional Navajo storytelling. It's a different focus.
Interesting.
And it's also quite interesting how Navajo children sometimes adapt familiar European folktales.
Really?
Yeah, they might substitute skinwalkers in place of, say, a generic boogeyman or a masked intruder in a story they heard.
Wow.
It really underscores how deeply this figure is ingrained in their cultural understanding of the unsettling, of danger.
It truly highlights the cultural significance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So beyond just being frightening stories, what's the deeper meaning here? What role does the Skinwalker legend play within the Navajo Nation today?
Oh, it's absolutely vital to understand that within the Navajo Nation, this isn't merely a collection of old stories.
Right.
It's a deeply held belief system that carries significant cultural weight. It functions as a very powerful warning.
A warning against what specifically?
Against moral decay, against the abuse of power, and a reminder of the critical importance of upholding community values, maintaining the delicate balance of the natural and spiritual worlds.
So it reinforces social norms.
In a very potent way, yes. It reinforces the idea that choosing a path of profound evil has terrifying consequences, not just for the individual witch, but potentially for the entire community they came from.
And we are seeing this legend pop up more and more in popular culture now, books, films, video games.
They are, yes.
What are your thoughts on that increased visibility? Is it a good thing, a bad thing?
Well, the growing presence of the Skinwalker legend in pop culture is undeniable. And while on one hand it can introduce these narratives to a broader audience, which isn't inherently bad, but it also really underscores the critical importance of approaching them with deep respect for their cultural origins.
Absolutely.
We have to be extremely careful to avoid cultural appropriation or trivializing something that holds such profound and often sacred meaning within the Navajo community. It's not just monster fodder.
Absolutely. It's a truly chilling legend, this concept of a skinwalker, a potent embodiment of evil that seems to, well, lurk in the very fabric of the American Southwest.
And it's so important to remember that for many people, this isn't just some ancient legend filed away in a book.
No.
It remains a living belief system, a testament, really, to the enduring power of ancient folklore and maybe the profound wisdom it can offer us about human nature and the choices we make.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left contemplating, does the Skinwalker legend primarily serve as this powerful cautionary tale about the darkness that can reside within humanity?
Possibly.
Or could it also represent something more? A literal, unsettling threat that some believe still walks in the shadows?
That's the unsettling question, isn't it?
It really makes you consider what unseen forces might truly inhabit the vast and often mysterious landscapes of the American Southwest. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.